So here's 4 wide receivers I'm looking to trade for. If trades are still going on in your league heading into Week 11, the first guy's Amari Cooper of the Dallas Cowboys. So Amari Cooper, he's been struggling the last few weeks, but we got some good news with Cooper here. He's got Andy Dalton coming back. Week 10 actually, Garrett Gilbert, 5 catches, 67 yards Cooper had. So not that bad of a fantasy day in PPR leagues. But people don't think Cooper's going to get the job done. But I think here in Week 11 versus Minnesota, he's got a good matchup. Minnesota gives up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. And Cooper, I think you could get him on the very cheap. People don't trust Dalton. They don't trust the Cowboys' offensive line. But Cooper, he really only had one horrible game, and that was Week 8 with Danucci at quarterback for the Cowboys. So Cooper, I think he's going to be fine. He's got a good schedule coming up the next 2 weeks versus Minnesota and Washington. And Dallas, who knows, they could even win those games for all I know. So go out there and get Amari Cooper. The price is going to be the lowest it is, especially with him coming off a bye. The next guy I'm looking to go out there and get is Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. He was on my list last week, and he's on it once again. He's got a little knee sprain. We don't know if he's going to play here in Week 11 in a division game on Thursday Night Football versus Arizona. Last time versus Arizona, you know what happened. He exploded for 15 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns was Lockett. And even not at 100%, I think he's going to play this game. It's a big divisional game. They've lost 3 out of 4 games now. In Seattle, they need all hands on deck, especially Chris Carson. Hopefully he comes back for the owners. But anyway, Lockett, you could get him dirt cheap now, I think. After that explosion, like I said, in Week 7 versus Arizona, he's been mediocre. Week 8, he didn't do much. 4 catches, 33 yards. Week 9 versus Buffalo, 4 for 40. And then last week at the Rams, 5 catches, 66 yards. So Russell Wilson, him and his guys, they were out of sync the last few weeks. Wilson, he's just putting some balls up that I don't know what the heck he's doing. He's trying to make the magician play. Well, Wilson, he hasn't been a turnover-prone quarterback most of his career till this year. But Lockett, I think he gets back on track and has another blow-up game here versus Arizona. So go get him before he explodes again if he plays on Thursday night, because they're not going to cover him. They're going to put Peterson on Metcalf, and I think Lockett, he's going to have one-on-one coverage the whole night. The next guy to go out there is Robert Woods of the Los Angeles Rams. Woods had a mediocre game in Week 10 versus Seattle, who gave up the 1st most fantasy points to wide receivers. But it was just Goff spreading the ball out. We saw Higbee 60 yards, Reynolds 94 yards. So Goff, he was getting it. Cooper Kupp had a good game. But this week versus Tampa Bay, they're going to need Woods, and they're going to need him in a big way. Woods, he's been pretty solid most of the fantasy season. He's top 15 in points, I believe. So Woods, he'll be fine. He's got Tampa and San Francisco coming up. 2 games where I think he could have a good PPR game with 6 or 7 catches in the 80-yard range. And 15, 16 points a game is pretty solid nowadays. It's hard to find good guys who are consistent. And for the most of the year, Woods, he's been in double-digit fantasy points except 2 games the whole season. So go out there and trade for Robert Woods. The next guy is Robby Anderson of the Carolina Panthers. And Anderson, he's been a good receiver the whole season. He's only had 2 games the whole year where he didn't have double-digit fantasy points, and that was one of them versus Tampa Bay. In Week 10, he only had 4 catches for 21 yards. Now he's got a good matchup versus Detroit, and then he's got Minnesota. So go out there and get Anderson. A lot of managers, in normal standard leagues, he's probably not starting. Or if he is, he's a flex guy each and every other week. But in those type of leagues, Anderson, he's a guy you could get, and you could plug him in the lineup and expect anywhere from 10 to 20 points. And that's a solid number you want for your floor and your ceiling for a wide receiver. So Robby Anderson, I don't think you got to break the bank for him. And he's a guy I think you could get, like I said, for a decent discount and trade, your 2nd or 3rd running back to get Anderson. And like I said, Anderson will get you the double digits. He'll get you the points, and he's a guy you don't have to worry about in your lineup. Even if Teddy Bridgewater is out this week, I think P.J. Walker, a similar type of quarterback to Teddy Bridgewater, he'll get Robbie the ball. So go out there and trade for Robby Anderson. And the fifth and final guy I'm looking to get is A.J. Brown of the Tennessee Titans. It was a one-down week for Brown. He dropped a deep ball that if he caught it, he would have had a 60 or 70-yard touchdown on that play. He had a couple drops in that game. Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, they're off a little on the mark. But Brown, he's been a monster since he came back from injury in week 5. So A.J. Brown, I'm not worried about him. It was one bad game. If the manager of Brown's frustrated and looking to deal him, you go out there and take him, because he's been putting up huge numbers since week 5. Now he's got Baltimore coming up. I still think he could get open and make plays in this game. And that's a game where I think Tennessee's going to throw the ball a lot. And Baltimore's main focus is going to be stopping Derrick Henry, even though we saw Damian Harris go over 100 yards on Sunday Night Football in Week 10. But Brown, he's going to be fine. He's a guy I'm going to still try to trade for him, even if I got to pay a decent price, or if I could get him on the buy low. So go out there and get Brown. That's 5 wide receivers I'm looking to get heading into Week 11 on the trade market.